Well, hello there, citizens of the Reject Nation. We're back to talk more Superman today. And hey, we want to talk about some cameos that happen in here. We got a really big one towards the end. That's a big one. That's a really big one. And I'm excited to talk about it because
you're doing some reading.
Threw me for a loop.
Oh,
I
yeah?
had not been reading what that is based on. So when I saw it, I was like, what the hell is going on? And am I going to like this? Because this is a little strange.
I love that.
And then it took source material to be like, oh, this is really accurate to the source material. But I was not familiar. We'll talk more about it.
Oh, I love this. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
And then, of course, there's like other cameos that appear in here. And we want to discuss a little bit of how this is setting up future DCU projects, because one of the things that we really admired about this movie that we were talking about in retrospect, I forget when, is how we did not concern ourselves afterwards. Like, no one is talking about it with us. As much as we've talked about it, we have not talked about like, oh, the future of the DCU based off of this movie.
Yeah.
Whereas it's often the conversation with them.
Yeah.
They happen in prior DC movies. Oh, that's mainly Marvel's talking.
Every Marvel post-credit scene is like,
it's like, all right, now like forget about what you saw. Let's just think about the future, you know.
Harry Styles.
And this movie it's actually subtly. I mean, one is a really big clear setup, but other ones that are setting up the future in ways that, or in building out the world of the DCU without it distracting you, and making you think more about that than the actual experience. So I was like, oh, we should talk about this because there's actual like things we can explore here through conversation of like,
100%.
Are they setting up Justice League? I mean, obviously some other movies and shows, some other little Easter eggs to go through. So yes, heavy spoilers ahead, as in the channel, heavy spoilers. What's up, Paul? Spoilers ahead. Let's kick it off with the one that I was teasing right away. Reject Nation, I'm going to interrupt this video just for a tiny bit to tell you that we were so inspired by this movie, it suddenly got our creative juices flowing, and now we suddenly have 3 new inspired tees at rejectnationshop.com. Can't wait to share them with you guys. The first one up right here, Being Kind is Punk Rock. You might have heard a few of us already talking about that theme of punk rock, and being kind is such a big part of the heart of this movie, and I'm so glad that we got Alyssa Be Crazy to design this for us. It is a fantastic representation of the vibes and the fun of this film, and of course the theme as well. Another one that we got, the Kryptone sunscreen from the mind of Aaron Alexander. Artists Joanne and Alyssa Be Crazy combined their efforts here. It is a throwback to that classic sunscreen design, but I feel like it is so emblematic of the type of vibe that Krypto and Superman have in this movie together. And the third one, weirdly, personally, my favorite. Hi, my name is Gary. If you guys have seen the movie, you get the reference. And for some reason, it ended up being my favorite one. I absolutely love it. And I hope you guys love either one of these. If you're able to buy any one of them, it is an amazing way to support the channel, support the artists here as well. You get a lot of weird monetization issues. I've heard many YouTubers probably talk about it, and it is a very real thing. So it's a great way to offset some of it, and hopefully you guys get something in return that you enjoy rocking. And it's the way you become a righteous reject. So become a righteous reject today by buying any one of these tees. I can't wait to be wearing these throughout the year, and I hope you guys can't wait to be wearing them as well. Thank you so much. We're gonna go back to the video now. It was obviously going to be Supergirl when he's like, I'm fostering Krypto.
Yeah.
And then Supergirl shows up at the end. So when Supergirl shows up and she's like drunk as hell, my first thought was Twitter. Honestly, it was my first thought because I'm so active. That was one of the things that when I texted you after of like, I'm considering leaving Twitter.
Was that why?
Is because sometimes during this movie, I would have a response where I'm like, this is so fun. I'm so touched. And then I would go, oh, but Twitter's going to hate this moment.
Okay, let's talk about that. Because I literally got off social media for this movie.
Yeah.
I go through my posts, I post, but I don't read anymore. I post and I walk away. Takes a lot of willpower. I knew going into this movie, I wouldn't be able to not have that happen throughout the experience. But I also knew after the movie, I was afraid it would tarnish my experience of what I truly felt. It was going to hit me twice. It was going to be like those thoughts. But then I was so afraid anything I said after, I'd be like, did I really feel that way? Like I was afraid of getting muddied down.
It's like as you were talking, I'm going, well, the average individual is not rhinoceros skinned in their brain. Like if you expose yourself to enough of someone's opinion, it could seep into your brain.
Yeah.
And it could influence the way you perceive things, you know? That's like, I've heard that be like the power of an autobiography. If you're reading in like an inspirational autobiography, you're reading into someone's thoughts, that you're able to start thinking a little bit more like them. Same thing happens with Twitter when you're looking at a bunch of people's opinions and thoughts. So yeah, it's gonna affect me. But the Supergirl, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
We'll talk about that in the pod. I want to continue this conversation. That's more of a pod talk.
Yeah,
but Supergirl scene.
The Supergirl scene, it made me go, this is a scene that people are gonna rip apart on Twitter because it seems like it's too goofy, it's too whatever. But they're clearly setting up Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I mean, the movie's called Supergirl, but it's gonna be based off of Woman of Tomorrow. And then when I hopped into the Woman of Tomorrow comic book, when you first meet Supergirl, she's pissed drunk. She's wanting to celebrate her 21st birthday. And it's literally the setup of her in this movie is very akin to the setup of her in the actual super famous comic book that the movie is based off of. So I was like, oh shit. And also it's her in Krypto at the beginning too.
Yeah.
And I was like, suddenly I was on board for it because of that, you know, and I guess I mean, I know people who have no familiarity with the comic who didn't mind that scene at all. I haven't actually talked to anyone who had an issue with that scene. But
we're still in a bubble.
Yeah.
Right now.
How did you feel when you saw that scene, though?
So, Woman of Tomorrow is one of my top 5 favorite DC comics ever. Like
a smart comic, guys.
Yeah, I love
it.
Like, it's
4
so
issues
in. But it's literally like it's in my top 5. It's one I recommend to people, not as their first comic, but like if you've read some comics, it's one of the like very essential readings. I think it's the best Supergirl comic comfortably. Because it's Star Wars, it's a walkabout story. Yeah, it's a lone wolf and cub story. It's
a
doing
revenge story.
Yeah. It's John Wick meets Star Wars. It's crazy. And
that's
like
actually not a bad way to put that.
It's a lot of comic, but
with
like
a bit of a cerebralness to it. Yeah,
so heady.
Yeah.
But I think it's approachably heady. But what I love about the comic is it does what the Superman movie did in making Supergirl relatable in the opposite way.
Sure.
Superman is relatable because he is so good you want to be like him. Supergirl is such a mess. You go, been there.
She's traumatized.
And we've all been there.
Yeah.
Superman is someone we want to be like. Supergirl is a cautionary tale, but has the same good heart.
Yeah.
And I love that nature-nurture element. I love that the Supergirl One of Tomorrow comic captures that in 10 issues.
Yeah.
Now, what I also love is that it's so cinematic. Like, you're only halfway, but like the scope of the walkabout story is so clear. But this ending is... You asked me what I thought. As soon as Millie Alcock turned the corner and I could tell she was drunk, I was like, oh, we're just starting with Woman of Tomorrow. Like, there was no, like, we're page one. It is diving in to that story, and I think that is genius for the DCU to do. Because we are living in a post-Iron Man world where we have accepted a world where Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor all had different movies, and when the Avengers came out, my brain was like, how are they doing all these different tones and it's working? We've lived that for 20 years. It's time now to leapfrog into an era where a spinner rack is our experience. And I think we're there. We're like phase 2 and 3 are already there. But I love that the tone, it did feel different because that movie's going to feel different. I'm glad they didn't try to make it like, oh, let's sugarcoat her first, then in her own movie, let's go crazy.
You know what, though? The part that is kind of missing for me, and maybe it'll play different when I watch it again, because we've only seen it once at this point, and it was like a week ago or something, is that... Okay, we'll just use the comic as a comparison. In the comic, when you first see her and she's drunk, the other element, you could see this woman's in a lot of pain. Despite the sardonic side of her, despite the fact that she's still a badass, you could see that she is a very sad individual.
Mm-hmm.
And who is still smiling through it. Versus here, I got a sense of just like young party girl.
It's definitely sorority vibe, but
yeah,
I don't think you can introduce her sad because then people, because of our audience, like the world, is not going to be like, why would I watch that drunk sad girl movie? It still needs to market the next film. Like, you can't open that way. Once you're in the movie, I think we'll see that for sure. It's Millie Alcock. But I don't think you could have added that layer in this. I think we're going to discover the reason she's drinking is the trauma. But I think if you introduce her with that, it's going to be like, why would I see sad girl movie?
Well, you see, there's a line where, I mean, James Gunn revealed in interviews, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to kill off Krypto in the Superman movie. He said that.
Yeah.
But when he said that, and I haven't finished Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, but you said John Wick setup, because part of like, it happens in the first issue. Krypto is severely injured, and I remember reading like, did he just fucking kill off Krypto? Like, and still, they're like, I don't know if he's gonna survive, or even where I'm at right now. And I think that is brilliant because Krypto is an integral part of the Superman movie, but he doesn't feel like he's just there to set up the Supergirl movie
at all.
At all, exactly. But Krypto is Supergirl's dog and is such a big part of motivation and emotion for Supergirl in her own story. And that's what I mean about the cleverness. I'm getting chills just talking about it. That's what I mean about the cleverness of how they got you solely focused on the individual thing by insidiously setting up, not insidious, that sounds sinister, but by subtly setting up like, oh, but this is actually a massive factor into the next movie we're going to watch.
The reason I know this movie is exceptional is I know Krypto is Supergirl's dog. I know Supergirl comes out June 2026. Not once when he said Foster or any of that, I was like, oh, he's referencing Supergirl, but I thought that would be it. My not thinking of movie brain wasn't like, bet she shows up at the end. So when it happened, I felt like a 12-year-old. I was like, oh, they did that thing. I love this movie was so good that I didn't feel like it was doing the world building. It was just world building.
Yeah.
It didn't need to do world building. It just was world building.
Yeah. Is there any other specifics in this movie outside of that setup that you feel like is going to factor into Supergirl?
Supergirl, no. Peacemaker, yes.
Okay, so Peacemaker. I mean, obviously we have Justice Gang, which was shown in the Peacemaker trailer. Maxwell Lord, I imagine, will be in the... Okay, so in this movie, you got a Peacemaker cameo.
Yep. And a brief
people
Maxwell
were
Lord
laughing
cameo.
so much when he showed up that I was getting caught up in my head about it. I didn't actually catch a lot of what he was saying.
I caught half his dialogue.
Yeah, I didn't catch a lot of. Was he saying anything that was actually important? Or was it just funny shit?
No, he said something about like thinks he's better than me because he's got like all these code. Like it was something to the effect of like him being mad that Superman's good. Like him being like, oh, hoity-toity, Mr. Superman was the vibe I got. Again, I only heard half the dialogue, but I think that's important because I think what's going to happen is Peacemaker is going to obviously be the next thing we get. We get a show, Peacemaker, this fall. Yeah. And I think there's going to be an element of the opposite of Superman where you've saved the world, but you're still a piece of crap. Yeah. And like, we know you're good because we've watched your show, but the world might not.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see the underdog story after getting this like huge, altruistic story. And I think following that up with Clayface and Supergirl is really going to establish that this universe is what Phase 1 felt like, where it's so disparate, but it gets to be, its own thing, especially with Clayface being an Elseworld. Like that's going to be really interesting. But I think the Peacemaker scene kind of sets up my big tinfoil hat theory is we have Stag Industries in a shot in the film when Superman is getting attacked by people. So Stag Industries is a giant billion-dollar corporation. It's responsible for the creation of Metamorpho. Metamorpho is in the film. They don't directly connect those, but if you're a comic fan, you go, that's why. So Stag Industries is in the roof. It's painted above Superman when he has that crime, when all the civilians are attacking him. He goes into this building.
Yeah, before Guy Gardner blocks off the window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Stag Industries, we have Maxwell Lord, and we have Luthor, and we have a brief shot of Gotham. Not Gotham itself, but a Gotham sign.
Gotham Highway.
Gotham Highway is that way.
Yeah.
So all of that is billionaires. I think we're in an era, especially with Lex Luthor, of what is it when you're an owned superhero? Maxwell Lord sponsors the Justice Gang.
Yeah.
I'm curious if Peacemaker not only dabbles in that, but gets to a point where it's a commentary on working outside the system. Does Superman represent the good or does he represent the system? Do these heroes that work for a big, owned corporation represent the good or a system? I could see Peacemaker, especially with Vigilante, being kind of a Deadpool outside the system, like shine a light on the brokenness. I could see all of this leading up to, Argus is involved. We know Argus has been mentioned. Argus is a big spy organization. And I could see all this leading to like corporate heroes versus heroes that are doing it for the good of all things.
Do you feel like this is a theme that's going on too much in comic book mediums though? Like that. Okay. So without fully giving it away, Thunderbolt's other title was The New Avengers. And when I finally watched it, I was like, oh, they don't really feel like the New Avengers. They feel like a corporate-owned Avengers team. And then, you got The Boys, which really talks a lot about this stuff. And now we got what it would appear is going to happen as well with the Justice Gang and such, with being corporate-owned. Do you feel like we're getting too much of this similar type of commentary?
I think as long as you make it a different version of that story, like every superhero origin, like parents die, orphan, like there's a lot of similarity in stories. It's how you tell the story.
Okay.
The Boys is very different than Thunderbolts. At no point did I feel a redundancy there.
Oh, yeah,
and then I think if DC goes the route of when everything is owned what is a choice. Like I think as long as there isn't like a ragtag group of heroes that are fighting an R-rated, like I don't think that element's going to come to play. So I think it'll feel different enough. But this is just, I don't think that's going to be the main through line. I think that'll be an element that has been set up.
Yeah, I think they're doing a lot of, I mean, it's weird because there is like commentary in Superman, but it's not, it might distract some people who are going to feel like it overshadowed. I don't think it does. I don't feel like it's going out of its way because, you know, you have the commentary about media manipulation, media association. Of course, you got a billionaire who's controlling the government.
Yeah,
and
that's where I'm talking about. Like, it's not the main text. It's not even subtext. It's deep subtext.
Yeah,
that's what I think we're planting seeds of, along with the metahuman alienation.
Yeah,
you can't tell a superhero story without othering. You have to make sure that, like, you know, there are people that are over there, and that's what I think it's doing with corporations versus metahumans. I think metahumans are going to be a big factor in the DC universe of like they're not like us.
Okay, that's fair. It's still, I do think like with Peacemaker season 2, he has to clear up though that Justice League cameo in some way, because you have like,
oh, it has to,
especially because you see this Peacemaker is acknowledging the Superman here, but then you have like a Superman and Batman appearance and a Flash,
whole Justice League,
Wonder Woman. Yeah, they have
Aquaman
everyone there.
And fucks fish.
They're all there. So I do think they have to like clear that up, because as much as like there's the, you know, like what is canon, what isn't, like, well, you know,
I think that show
some
might
of it
be
does
the
matter.
thing to do that.
I hope he doesn't shy away
and
actually does try to help answer that, because it's called Peacemaker season 2. So
right.
You know, if you have people going back like, I'm gonna watch Peacemaker season 1, or I haven't seen Peacemaker season 1, then they might be like, wait, what the hell's going on? You know,
Jason Momoa, I thought he was Lobo.
Yeah, it might create a bit of a confusion there. So okay, yeah, I mean, I like all those theories. And then,
so yeah, again, I don't think it's going to be like the headline villain, but I think the Authority. You know, I don't know what the deal is.
This sets up the Authority.
Yeah, I have a DC Studio showcase show. Doesn't mean I've read the scripts. I don't know what's happening with the Authority. Don't think of me as a source. How do you think this
is going to set up the Authority?
That was what I think is interesting. Is now we have Superman as this figure of good, and metahumans are kind of on the fence. They turned on him real quick. They turned back real quick. The Authority's always been a commentary on heroes. The Authority's always been like, what if Superman and Batman were not as trustworthy and they could be owned? So I could still see the Authority leaning into that Maxwell Lord and Luthor and all that stuff. Like, we've set those pieces up on the chessboard.
Okay, so
obviously we've got the Engineer, who's a member of the Authority.
Yeah, so we got Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, Authority set up,
Batman set up.
And James Gunn did say something really interesting. I think it was with from Jake's Takes. I think he said, you know, who knows? He might have actually already met Batman. He might have already been aware. And I'm like, that makes a lot more sense that he'd be aware of who Batman is, especially considering how close Gotham is.
And 3 years is a long time to not pop over.
Yeah, and you know, Batman's a pretty popular figure. And yeah, exactly. If there's a highway that takes you to Gotham, I'm pretty sure Superman has probably maybe encountered him before. And maybe that might be the way of explaining that I mean, it doesn't explain Aquaman and Flash and all that. But you don't see Batman's face and Superman's face in when the Justice League show up in Peacemaker. So that could be the answer to that, I guess.
It's going to be,
but then that would mean that there's a Justice League already established,
which it doesn't seem like is the case, because the Hall of Justice is new and it's the Justice Gangs.
Yeah.
And I love that it looks just like the Super Friends. Like, it's just like the comics Hall of Justice.
How do you think it's setting up our new Justice League?
I think that Superman standing up against the Justice Gang, even though they're his friends, not just standing up against, but standing for not listening to them, is allowing those heroes. Like, Mr. Terrific wasn't in the Peacemaker trailer. Like, Hawkgirl and Nathan Fillion were. But I think Mr. Terrific maybe goes his own way, and like he starts to inspire heroes to be heroes just to be heroes.
Yeah. I mean, when you talked about the Mr. Terrific being possibly the next thing, that secret sequel he's
before
working
you saw
on,
the movie.
Yeah, and then and I was like, yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Peacemaker thing.
Yeah,
and then during the interview,
he literally said
it kind of reminds me of Peacemaker. I'm like 100% sounds like you're doing your Mr. Terrific movie.
I really like if I shot my shot and I called it 2 years early, I'm gonna be so happy.
I mean, he gave Mr. Terrific an entire like Yondu scene on crack.
Yeah,
you know,
and Eddie is incredible.
Yeah,
like Eddie Gathegi is a movie star, and like that dude should be a household name. If it's this way, I'm so happy.
I mean, the fact that he could be a stoic ass dude but be charismatic.
How is he so charming while being like the most cool, small?
And I love how he captured the irony. That's called Mr. Terrific, but he has like no smile about
so
it.
Fucking chill. It was Anya's favorite character. She came out and she was like, "That's how I feel when I'm excited. That's what you get from me." And I was like, Relatability.
Yeah.
So I think we get something that's terrific. I think with him, he was inspired. He said he wasn't going to do it, and then he went off and did it. I think more heroes are going to kind of form. Superman's inspirational to not just us, but to in-universe heroes.
Yeah.
I think the Justice League starts to form because we need it, and because people see that Superman's doing the right thing globally.
Well, there's been no talk about Hawkgirl's counterpart.
Like Hawkman?
Yeah.
I haven't heard any talk.
I know. Why not?
I think we just had a Hawkman. I think they're probably going to give that.
You think it's a producer thing?
I think it's like a Hawkgirl could have a solo thing with Hawkman, and I'd love that because there is some canon where she's just an alien. There's some where she's been reincarnated over and over again, and sometimes not in line with her.
That's the version I'm more familiar with. Yeah,
where like it's not always in line with her lover, but when they meet, it's like I'd love that story. But I don't think you need Hawkman until you tell that story because we already have a Hawkgirl.
Do you feel like you could get a Hawkgirl's? Do you feel like with Guy Gardner, even though they're doing the Lantern show? Do you think Guy Gardner in some way is setting up for the Lantern show? Because they mentioned like Lantern Corps and all that. It's a part of the world
building.
I
think those little Easter eggs are enough to when we have the Lantern show, it won't feel as alien. Like we've seen the technology, we've seen the power ring, we've seen it does pave the way. I think the show's that's a great example of the spinner rack. I think that show is a very different tone, and Guy Gardner is going to be like the weirdo they deal with. And this universe is so bright and so vibrant. I feel like the Daily Planet doesn't get enough credit for allowing that. All of the Daily Planet actors are doing an 11 throughout the film, and it doesn't feel weird because the world's so vibrant. And I think that is going to allow the Lantern show to kind of go more grounded that leads to Cosmic and Weird by having Guy Gardner be like the odd man out. I think that's going to work great.
Do you feel like there's any other cameos in that meta-human pocket dimension? I don't recall.
We've only seen it once. I tried. I was like, I was so in the movie that I was like, I'm sure this is relevant.
So many glass boxes.
I'm sure someone paused this now that they've seen it, and but watching it the first time, I wasn't Eric Vossing.
Well, I don't remember. We saw it in the credits. Michael Rosenbaum plays a character.
I think he's one of the robots. I think he's one of the voices.
That is such a great Easter egg.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
they're buddies.
Yeah.
But of course,
it's also the Lex Luthor. He's my Lex Luthor.
For
up
many
until Nicholas
people,
Hoult.
he's the definitive Lex. For many people,
I think that hot take. I think that Nicholas Hoult is as good, but since I only got 2 hours of him, Rosenbaum is still my Lex Luthor. But I could see Nicholas Hoult with 4 or 5 movies under his belt. It's just right now I've got 10 years of Rosenbaum.
Yeah.
So but Nicholas Hoult crushed in one movie. He was so good in this.
Oh, and then of course we got Rick Flag.
Yes.
Rick Flag's in this movie.
And in Peacemaker.
And he's going to be in Peacemaker season 2 going after Peacemaker.
Because he killed his kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Big reason.
And especially after being in Creature Commandos too, where I love we love Creature Commandos so much.
We should talk about that. Creature Commandos set up a lot in that premonition scene, but it was in a thing that never ended up happening. So I love that we saw our first Batman, but it's in that didn't happen yet because they stopped the events of it. But what we did get was a Rick Flag that was on the side of the metahumans. He was working with them, but under Waller's thumb. Now in this, Waller had a ramification. So here he's on this weird spot where he's like, metahumans aren't so bad, but I gotta arrest Superman. That's the situation. I'm really curious to see Rick Flag kind of have the opposite of Nick Fury, where he's a through line, but it seems to be against our heroes, right? By the end of this, he was sitting there seemingly on Lex's side.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, is his arc gonna be landing where he's not pro?
Oh yeah, that's a really good point.
Didn't he seem to be pro Lex by the end?
I don't know if he was fully pro Lex. I didn't get the vibe of that, but I don't know. I kind of miss. I think I read some things very differently than other people.
Well, that's the beauty of art, right? That's the interpretation of it. I felt like he was I felt like he was more reluctant in the beginning than the end.
Yeah, it's weird. It's because you have the Peacemaker cameo, you have the Rick Flag cameo, little role there, and yet it doesn't feel like it's setting up Peacemaker season 2, but all this is going to factor into Peacemaker season 2.
Yeah, I don't feel like this was one of those things where it's a tease for Peacemaker season 2 or got to find out what happens next, but I know something in Peacemaker season 2 will reference this, and I'll be like, of course.
Yeah.
I feel like in hindsight, it'll be obvious.
I mean, and if Peacemaker is also shit-talking Superman, yet he seems like he's trying to get into the Justice Gang in the Peacemaker show.
Yeah.
It is still setting up. It is playing more into the characterization of Peacemaker still.
And that's really good world building because it doesn't feel like it's just breadcrumbs. It feels like the characters are on a journey.
Yeah, and I totally forgot that at the beginning of the trailer. That's what he's doing. He's auditioning to get into the Justice Gang.
Yeah. So I'm really curious how Rick Flag plays there.
Damn.
And will Rick Flag have something to do with him not getting in? because he's, you know what I mean? Like, he's government. So will Rick Flag hating him because he killed his son have anything to do with it?
I mean, I don't know, but maybe Peacemaker is there to try to replace Mr. Terrific's role.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Because
maybe he does get in.
Maybe he does. Maybe I don't know.
And then that grows the Justice League. Like, maybe Peacemaker being such a buffoon messes up the Justice Gang's name. Because we haven't seen a lot of footage, which has been nice.
Yeah, well, it looks like, because Maxwell Lord's in the room in that trailer, so I feel like they're trying to. I mean, Metamorpho.
It definitely is an audition.
Yeah,
but like, is that an audition that goes well, and then we've got like a setup for the Justice League through Peacemaker, or does it go badly because Rick Flag? You know what I mean?
I remember the trailer saying how. I remember the trailer all just shit talking.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's like a welcome, but I don't know.
I don't know.
But Rick Flag is intriguing.
Well, Supergirl Woman Tomorrow, Authority it's setting up, Batman teasing, and
all the industries and the world building, and just the sense that it's lived in, I think, is my favorite bit. Like the fact that all these industries don't feel like comic book like name drops, they feel like it's going to do something.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you see it's the difference between Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2.
And I do think that Brainiac could be a good villain for a follow-up because of all the technological shit that happens in here. So I do think there's an element that is setting up. You could have a Brainiac.
Him yelling about humanity.
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole movie about, like, I'm human, and then Brainiac's like, I'm the opposite. Like, it is right there.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. What was your favorite cameo or Easter egg? Leave your thoughts down below. Thank you, Coy, for being here. Leave a like on this video. Keep a lookout for more of whatever we got to talk about with Superman. Thank you, guys.